This 1.7 is what we're covering today. Find perimeter, circumference, and area. Our objectives. Before we found the lengths of segments, now you'll find lengths of segments in a chorded plane. Also, you have named and measured line segments. You will name, measure, and classify angles today. Formulas for perimeter, area, and circumference. So for a square, the perimeter is 4 times the length of the side. That's why it's 4s. S is the length of a side. There's 4 sides. They're all the same length, so it's 4s. The area of a square is side squared because it's length times width, and that's S and S. So you take S times S, that's why you get S squared for area of a square. Rectangle. The perimeter is going to be 2 times the length, because we have this length and this length. There's 2 of those, and 2 widths. So it's 2L plus 2W. And the area is going to be length times width. A triangle. The perimeter is A plus B plus C, just the sum of the sides. The area is 1/2 the base times the height. All right, 1/2 base times height. The reason you take 1/2 base times height is if I had a rectangle with these dimensions of B and H, I take base times height. This triangle takes up half of this rectangle. So that's why it's 1/2 base times height. Circle. Okay, the circumference, which is the diameter or distance around the circle, is pi d or 2 pi r. These are the same thing because 2 times the radius, 2r, is d. That's why it's interchangeable. Pi d or pi 2 times r. You're just going to use whichever one you have the information. If they give you the radius, use 2 pi r. If they give you the diameter, use pi d. Most of the time they'll give you the radius. Area of a circle, pi r squared. Pi r squared. And pi is an approximation. Okay, it's a ratio of circumference to diameter. And pi is 3.1. It's an irrational number, so it never ends. It's a never-ending decimal. But the first few numbers of pi are 3.14. You've probably heard of that. How many people have heard of pi before? Okay, yeah. It's 3.14, 159, okay? If you use a calculation for pi, you can just, if it doesn't say to round, just leave your answer in terms of pi. Don't even multiply by 3.14. Just like if the radius was 2, you'd square it. That'd be 4 pi. Just write that as your answer, 4 pi. If it says to round, then use the pi button on your calculator, because if you use 3.14, that's not far enough out. That's not enough decimal places. So use the pi button and you'll get a more exact answer. Any questions on those formulas? Example. Find the perimeter and area of the rectangular basketball court. So when I do these problems, I'm going to write the formula. Perimeter of a rectangle, we said, was 2 times L plus 2 times W. That's a point right there, just writing that formula. 2L plus 2W. Then you're going to plug in 2 times the length, that's 2 times 84, plus 2 times the width, is 2 times 50. And then you calculate. We're taking notes. So 2 times 84 is 168. 2 times 50 is 100. So that's going to be, the perimeter is 268 feet. 268 feet. That's a perimeter. Area. For area of the basketball court, area is length times width. So that's going to be 84 times 50. Right? And 84 times 50 is 420. No. Yeah, 420, I believe. 420 feet squared. Somebody check that, Abby, with your calculator. Did I do that right in my head? 84 times 50? It's 4,200, I think. 4,200. Is that right? 4,200? Yeah. So add a 0. Any questions on that example? Soccer ball or soccer patch for your soccer uniform. Find the approximate circumference and area of the patch. Okay, so which circumference formula are we going to use here? Yep. What? Yeah, we're given the diameter, so we'll use C equals pi d. So that's going to be 9 pi centimeters is my circumference. Area. What's the formula for area?
We're all good now. The moment is past.
Yes. Pi r squared. So it's going to be pi times 9 squared, which is equal to 81 pi centimeters squared. Make sure you square your units for area. If you just put centimeters, there'll be a small deduction, maybe a half point, because there's a difference between 81 pi centimeters and 81 pi centimeters squared. So make sure you square the units. Okay, so there's the work. They plugged in 3.14 for pi. You don't have to do that unless it says to round for that. So and then we get, there's our perimeter and area. And we did ours in terms of pi. All right, this triangle has vertices Q, R, and S. What is the perimeter of the triangle? Okay, well, somebody tell me, how would we go about figuring this out using what we know? How could I go about figuring out the perimeter of the triangle? Which formula are we going to use? Yeah.
A plus B plus C.
No, we're not going to use Pythagorean theorem. In a way we do. We're using the distance formula. Okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying the area, to add all the sides, yes, it would be A plus B plus C, but but you'd have to take it a step further, and you've got to figure out the distance between each of these points. So go ahead and, just for practice, do the distance formula from Q to R. We're not going to do all three. It's a lot of extra calculation. But do from Q to R. So Q to R, go ahead and do the distance formula. Okay, so from Q to R is 5. Should have gotten 5 if you did the distance formula. Now we're not going to calculate the rest. We'll just write. You can just write them down, as long as you know in your mind that you would use the rest of the distance formulas on the other ones. You may want to write that down. But okay, so it looks like they did it through graphing. But did you guys have a graph on your notes? All right, so we would have to use a distance formula. So they did. With that, calculated that, and RS is 4.1. So we add those things up. For the distance around would be 13.1. Questions? All right. Skating rink. An ice resurfacing machine is used to smooth the surface of the ice at a skating rink. The machine can resurface about 270 square yards of ice in a minute. How many minutes does it take the machine to resurface a rectangular skating rink that is 200 feet by 900 feet wide? Several things going on here. How would you solve this problem? Any ideas? What do we have to find first? Before we can figure out the time, what do we have to find? Well, what do you call that surface of the rink that this machine is going to go back and forth and smooth the ice up? What is it going over? Yes. Right. It's going over the area of the rink. So that's our first step, is to find the area. Area is length times width. So it's going to be 200 times 900, or 90, which is equal to 18,000. Feet squared. Now, the machine is given as 270 yards of ice in a minute. We have feet. I've got to convert this to yards, square yards. How can I convert 18,000 to square yards? Yes. Okay. You're close, but it's square yards, right? So in square feet. So if you think for a second about a square yard, okay, a square yard would be 3 feet by 3 feet, right? So if I multiply 3 times 3 to get the area of, this is a square yard, then I would get 9 feet squared. So instead of dividing by 3, we would take 18,000 divided by 9 to get the yardage. So that's going to be 2,000 yards squared. And then we will, let's clear this out, and we'll take, then how, so we've got 2,000 yards squared, and the machine covers 200 270 yards in a minute, how would I determine how much time it takes to go the rate, 2,000 square yards? What would I do with the rate of the machine? To determine how many minutes. Okay, so we've got our ice rink here, right? The machine starts, and it goes back and forth and back and forth, okay, and it covers this area, and that's 270 square feet, square yards. That takes 1 minute, right? So it continues on and it makes these squares of 270 feet, or rectangles of 270 square feet. Now, knowing that, how am I going to figure out how many minutes it takes? Yes?
To divide 2,000 by 270.
Right, we would divide 2,000 by 270. And we would end up with whatever that is. Somebody calculate that. We're taking notes, Brandon.
Okay.
Section 1.7. What is 2,000 divided by 270?
You get 7.4077.
7.407. So it's about approximately 7.5 minutes, right? So next time, come on. What's going on here? 7.5 minutes. So next time you go to a hockey game and the Zamboni machine comes out, time it. See if this problem is accurate. All right. Any questions on that example? Okay. The base of a triangle is 28 meters. Its area is 308 square meters. Find the height of the triangle. The whole key here is writing the formula. What's the formula for area of a triangle? Brandon?
I know it. Base
Some-
times height.
Yeah, that's rectangle. Triangle would be, go ahead. Yeah, it's 1/2 base times height. Area equals 1/2 base times height. And then you just plug in what you know. We know the area is 308. That equals 1/2. The base is 28. And the height is h. So we've got 308 is equal to 14 times h. How many times does 14 go into 308? 22? H equals 22, I believe, is correct. 22 meters. Everybody got it? All right. Okay, that's it.